2-point conversation, recapping our favorite and most important storylines from the week before. We're going to start each episode like this. So, Steven, your turn to go for 2.
So I think 2 things from last week stood out to me. And first of all, we'll start with the easy one. That's Kurtis Rourke from Ohio getting hurt against San Diego State. It does not look like it's going to be a significant injury that's going to keep him out. Tim Albin, the head coach, kind of optimistic that he could be back in action this Saturday. But, I think you look back at that game for Ohio, very winnable game. Losing him obviously was huge with the turnovers that they had later on. Getting him back for MAC play and trying to push for the MAC title, that's something we'll have to see coming off the ACL injury. Now another one, is he 100% once we hit the heart of MAC play? The harder one is USC's defense. And it's almost one of those, is it glass half full or glass half empty questions here? Because I thought watching USC's defense, it looks better. Like it passes the look test for me of like more talent. Anthony Lucas, Bear Alexander, some of the other guys they brought in. I thought they flashed on Saturday, but there was also moments of they couldn't contain the mobile quarterback again. And Chevin Cordero, I think for San Jose State is very good. Like I think some of the problem of USC is San Jose State also has some offensive firepower too. But there were some breakdowns. We saw it in coverage. We saw it when he was on the move. Like there was a critical 3rd down conversion that the guys were right there ready for the tackle and they overran it. There was about 7 or 8 missed tackles, depending on where you get your advanced stats. That's probably better than last year. I still think this defense is going to get better. They played a lot of people in the opener. I will be slightly optimistic here and think that it's not all bad for USC. We'll see coming up. But also the tougher games are later in the season. So we really may not know how much better this group is until they play Notre Dame and some of the other teams on their schedule.
Before I go for 2, I'd like to point out that no other podcast in America covering college football, all 133, will start its week 1 preview with the Ohio Bobcats. I just want to point that out. We're the only one. So my 2 points from week 0, Notre Dame ran the football very well. Estime looks like a really nice player. Love, Payne. They've got some weapons in the backfield, which looks very Notre Dame-y. Notre Dame looks like Notre Dame. By the way, side note, I don't think I'd want to get into a bar fight with either one of those 2 coaches in that game, Navy or Notre Dame. They both look like they're in peak physical shape, and I'm scared of them. But here, my big takeaway from Notre Dame, and Sam Hartman looked good, looked like he was in control, looked like he was glad not to be running the slow mesh. I think the key is we just don't know. It looked fine. It looked good. The defense, you're going to give up chunk plays on the ground against a triple option team, but the defense looked pretty good. The offense looked great. Really, we're not going to know until Ohio State in week 4 with Notre Dame. We're certainly not going to know this week against Tennessee State. Shout out to Eddie George and Tennessee State University here in Nashville for going up and playing that game. Give them a lot of credit, both sides, because Tennessee State certainly needs the money. But I think the big issue is just don't take anything too much away from the Notre Dame win. Ireland looks fun. I would like to go. Never been. That's a big takeaway. My second point is the Vanderbilt Commodores. They're going to play Alabama A&M this week, and they didn't look great against Hawaii. They let them back into the game in the 4th quarter. They had a 3-touchdown lead in the 4th quarter, and then Hawaii scored a couple of times and actually got it to a 1-possession game. But A.J. Swan, the quarterback, the receiving core looked pretty good. So I think they're going to have a better passing attack. Defense, still major questions. I think the real issue with Vanderbilt, or not the real issue, but like the real main takeaway is that if they beat Alabama A&M this weekend, which they should, they're going to be 4-1 in their last 5 and 7-7 over since the start of last season in Clark Lee's 2nd and 3rd, now 3rd seasons. And they're investing, I know it looks like a punchline on Twitter, but they're investing more money in football than ever before, $1 billion in a stadium renovation. I think the real story about Vanderbilt football is 7-7 over 14 games and $1 billion coming into the football program. I think that's the real story with Vanderbilt. So those are my 2 points from week number 0.